In the last 3 days, at least 65 persons have lost their lives in stampedes that occurred during food distribution events in Anambra, Oyo, and the Federal Capital Territory. In Oyo State, over 35 persons, mostly children, died on Wednesday during a stampede that occurred at a carnival in Ibadan, Oyo State capital. In Abuja, 10 people died on Saturday during a stampede at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Maitama. Many people had gathered at the church premises for an event to distribute relief items. On the same day, at least 20 people reportedly died in the Okija community of Anambra State during a stampede that occurred at a rice and gift sharing event. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, on Saturday warned against unorganized distribution of palliatives and relief items in the country during the festive period. The IGP emphasized the dangers posed to public safety during unorganized distribution of palliatives and fun fairs set up by groups, individuals, and NGOs. And back here in Lagos, the Lagos State government has mandated all groups intending to distribute gifts to vulnerable residents of the state to seek clearance before proceeding with their acts. The Lagos State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Bengal Motosho, said the requirement was to avoid an incident of stampede as has been recorded in some parts of the country. In a statement on Monday, Omotosho stated the Lagos State Safety Commission would issue clearance if the organizers meet the requirements set by the government. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who are mourning at this time. But tonight, let's speak with two gentlemen. Larry Mojola, Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission. And also joining me tonight is Sonny Adenuga, National Chairman, Boot Party. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us on Politics Tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right. DG, let me start with you. I mean, we'll talk about Lagos and implementation of strict precautionary measures in place. But in the meantime, over the years, many Nigerians have tragically lost their lives in preventable stampedes. You talk about shoddy planning, poor organization, impatience, desperation, and other factors have contributed to these avoidable disasters in large gatherings. I mean, with fact, most of these stampedes have been mostly because of food and mostly at religious gatherings. But when this happens in 3 days, what do you call this?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, I'd like to commiserate with the families of people that lost their lives. Our hearts go out to them. It's something that touches the nerves of all of us in Lagos State government, and the government led by Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has made adequate preparation through the Safety Commission and other security and safety agencies to ensure that we don't see such in Lagos. Food is a very central vein for everybody. It's the life that we live on. So wherever people hear that there are food distribution places, people tend to go out there en masse. People also tend to have, there's also the notion that people tend to like freebies. But the onus lies on the event organizers to ensure that there's adequate preparation, there's adequate planning in place. You'd recollect that the Safety Commission had been ramped up by virtue of the COVID-19 pandemic, where Lagos was the highest hit place. So over time, over the last 3-4 years, we've had a system in place to be able to manage, control large events across the state. This is still what we're doing. We'll continue to do this, where people now have to register their events. Once you have an event, be it a funeral, a birthday party, a charitable event, a food palliative event, the onus lies on you as the event organizer to register your event through our online platform, www.lasgsafetyregs.com. Once you get on this platform, you will then basically just go through the process. If it's 250 people that you're hosting, if it's 500 people that you're hosting, if it's 1,000 people that you expect to give food to, there's certain things that are required. For example, if you have over 250 people, you have to register the event. From 500 people onwards, you need to have the services of safety marshals on ground. You have to have an ambulance on standby. You have to also ensure that there are very strict protocols, safety protocols on ground. Once you move from 500 to 1,000 people, the protocols change. Once you move from 1,000 to 2,000, again, the protocols change. 2,000 people and above are seen as very large events. And as you move along, the protocols continue to change. For us in Lagos State, we try to ensure that we can indeed have people come out, we can have people come to distribute foodstuff, distribute palliatives, but in an absolutely safe manner. And there's so many tips that are required, in ensuring that you have these large events. Everything starts from the planning. You need to plan these palliative events. You need to plan these food charities, knowing that if, for example, you have provision for 1,000 food baskets, you need to ensure that you have just about 1,000 people at your venue. Other tips have to do with things like security control, crowd control. How do you display or use the use of barriers appropriately? Ingress and egress. You can't have people coming from one entrance and also go out from that same entrance. There will always be confusion. People will get frustrated. People will get excited. Some people will start to rush. Once they come in and they go out, they'll tell the other people that, oh, I've just seen 50 bags left. This sends a wrong signal. So there have to be clear lines of ingress, clear lines of egress. And obviously, when you're having large events, you need to tag them. You need to tag them. You need to set up security cordons, security barriers far away from these places of distribution. I mean, I suppose if you do have these things in place, it would limit some of these issues that we've seen in the state. You can indeed have large events in the state successfully, and we have not had any issues.
All right, Ms. Amojola, with this latest development, are these clear evidences that Nigerians or Nigeria is yet to imbibe the critical culture of crowd management?
It comes down to us putting safety first. It's a culture of safety that we preach in Lagos, where anything you do, people tend to look at the event or the planning without thinking about the safety. And crowd management is a subset of safety. So when you think around safety, then issues start to come up. How do you manage crowd? In the event that something goes wrong, a risk, what are the risks that would likely crystallize? If the risk crystallizes, what do we then do? We swing into emergency, disaster, business continuity plans. What emergency plans do we have in place? Do we have ambulances in place? Do we have paramedics in place? So it's all about planning. It's all about putting safety first. That's the message that we continue to preach in Lagos.
All right. I'll come back to you, Mr. Amojola. Mr. Adenuga, let me come to you. You have released a statement to this regard. But in just one long week, how do you react to this?
Yeah, thanks, Jumoke. And let me first say that it's sad. And like Larry had said earlier, I'm going to add my voice and say, my thoughts are with this family, especially at this grieving time. Well, I'm going to go backward a bit. If you look at before now in Jigawa State, sometimes in October, there was also an incident where a tanker fell and it exploded, and over 200 people, if I'm right, actually died. And this comes to my concern personally that I've always had about chaos system that we have bequeathed to our future, and also a system of corruption. Of course, this statement may feed into Nigerians distractor, both homegrown who are living abroad or who are in diaspora. But the point here is this. We are all responsible to ensuring that there is order in what we do. Like Larry said, the Safety Commission, I'm just aware about them today when I was making some search. But clearly, when you look at what Safety Commission is doing in Lagos State, I'm not sure, and you can correct me if that's replicated across the country, number one. But if that's not happening, one of the first things we need to be talking about is at least there should be a form of guideline. I know Mr. Sorry if he is honorable, he's talked about some of the requirements that needs to be met. But clearly here, we need to be realistic. Even the public system in Nigeria, no, Lagos may be better, doesn't have a very great emergency system in place, ambulance and all the rest. But at the basic level, I would think we should be talking of a basic guideline that anyone organizing any event, it doesn't matter how much is the number, as far as you're saying that you're going to be giving things to people who are not your family members, they are public. And as a result, there should be a guideline that will be able to help anyone. And by extension, that guideline can be put into a national law where every organizer knows that when you are not following this law, you're not following the guideline, you're actually disobeying the law of the land, and someone could be prosecuted. Look, it's a shame on the leaders of our nation that some people, maybe out of their desire for good of the people, in the process of organizing event, children died, people died. And like you said in your report, we had the numbers in Jigawa State today. We're talking about hundreds of people, Nigerians, whose hope have been extinguished. And that doesn't fit in well with the narrative of renewed hope of Mr. President. But of course, we all first need to tell ourselves the system of chaos that has become an order. I will tell you, in my recent visit in Abuja, you know, I was somewhere in area 11 around the time school closes. And these kids, they wanted to cross the road, right? It's a common knowledge in Abuja that almost every motorist do not respect traffic light. And these kids, they waited for a very long time, and eventually they just have to risk and dash into the road. You know, it is terrible that people do not understand the impact all this does to us. And we can go on and complain. You know, sometimes people say, oh, of course, this is small about the concern of the country. But you see, in life itself, there is nothing big or small. It is what sometimes some people call small. That's what eventually leads into what is big today. Like we have stampede in Okija, stampede in Ibadan, in Abuja. Of course, someone could say, oh, maybe what happened in Jigawa State. But the point is this: if we have taught our kids order, if chaos is not part of our life, you will be surprised that none of these things will happen, even when people are in a hurry.
All right. Mr. Adenuga, I like that you've gone there because, you know, people are often encouraged to leave the comfort of their homes for an event potentially capable of attracting huge crowds without adequate consideration for their safety. And that was why I talked about crowd management earlier. And worse still, after tragedy must have struck, everybody goes home to await a future reenactment of the calamity. Essentially, no lesson is learned. With this, what lessons must state government, NGOs take away from this?
Yes, it's very simple that, look, before, just like Honorable Larry said, you must give a deep thought. And I think every other state and local government in the country, due respect if they are already doing something. But I look at Honorable Larry's safety website, and I could see at least it's a starting point. Everybody could pick from this and know that we cannot continue to allow our people to die. And those in the National Assembly, they shouldn't just fold their hands and say, oh, because look at it this way. When there are no law, what are you going to use to prosecute those who organize those events? Technically, they have not disobeyed, they have not gone against any law. But if there are laws in place and people are well oriented to know that, look, this is what you need to do whenever you are organizing such event, then people will be more conscious. Their consciousness will be awoken. So what needs to happen is that at every level, from every local government in the country, there must be that sense of responsibility from anyone organizing an event to say that, look, I need to look at safety issues, I need to look at this, and look, sometimes people are not really aware of what they should do. And like Honorable Larry said there, on their website, you can see some of the guidelines that you need to follow. And they can pay attention to some of these guidelines and be able to make sure that they put necessary order in place. It's not enough to just blame those who are in leadership. This is a shared responsibility. We all have responsibility to obey law. And for those motorists, for those senior officials who will go to the airport and will brazenly disobey cues, you are sending wrong messages. It's not enough to come and prove I'm a big man and just disobey, and we behave like we are enemies of our country, and yet we are the quickest to condemn. When we become prime minister somewhere, we will say the country is bad. But whereas our attitude at our private level, what do we do about it?
All right. Mr. DG, let me come to you, because in Lagos, and you've pointed out, you talked about this earlier, Governor Sanwo-Olu has put out a warning mandating all groups intending to distribute gifts to vulnerable residents of the state to seek clearance before proceeding with their act. First, I want us to walk us through this process, expatiate further on this process. And when the governor says groups, what does it mean by groups? Is it just about charitable organizations? What about religious organizations? I mean churches, mosques, and religious organization settings?
Thank you very much. You reflect that we actually perfected our event safety regulations during COVID. We realized that there was a need for us to have statutory tools and regulations, guideline regulations, and indeed laws that would guide large events in the state. So for us, it's something that we had started where initially when we started, people used to come to our office, and then we realized that we didn't want to have people in our offices because the problem we were trying to solve, we were also creating it. So we opened it up onto a platform. Throughout the whole COVID period, about two years where there was limited activity, what we were doing was we were building this platform. We were registering locations, public locations across the state. On our platform, as we speak, we have over 12,000 facilities in the state. We have churches, we have mosques, we have event centers, we have hotels, we have so many public places, we have libraries, we have schools. So what we've done is we've collected a robust database where other than private houses, I can boldly say that we've gathered enough data in the state where we've uploaded these locations, we've gone to physically verify them, we've looked at the occupancy limits and the occupancy ratios. For example, a TBS at Tafawa Balewa Square, we will tell you the total numbers that it can sit if it's in conference. We can tell you the total number of people it can sit if it's in cinema style. So once you want to have an event, the onus lies on you to then come up to that platform, identify the location you want, whether you're doing it directly or you're using
Mr. Mojola, kindly hold on, please.
Yes.
Let me put you on hold while we go for this commercial break. Mr. Mojola, let me continue this conversation with you, and I'd like us to be clear. So, if, for instance, I own an NGO and I'm interested in giving out palliatives to 2,000 persons or 500 persons, with this new directive, I need to approach the Safety Commission. Would the Safety Commission also deploy all the necessary security apparatus I may need or needed to ensure safety? Do I need to pay for registration? After that, what next?
Okay, so the way it works is you'll come up to our platform anytime you have an event above 250. So 250, 500, 1,000, 2,000 and above 2,000. Those are the tiers. So we have 4 tiers, tier 1 to tier 4. If you come up to our platform and you want to register for an event that expecting that you're having over 250 people, you register your event. There's set protocols that you need to ensure that you have. You need to ensure that you have clear egress. We also have a video that you will play that will show you very basic safety precautionary measures. So that event gets registered. Peradventure, you're now having 500 and above, then there's certain things you need to do. You need to ensure that you engage the services of a safety marshal. We also have highlighted vendors, safety vendors on our platform. So you can go to any of them across the local government areas, pick the safety marshal vendor that you want, deploy your safety marshals. The same thing, in the same vein, you need to also provide ambulances on ground, depending on the numbers. If you're having 500 to 1,000, we state that you must have an ambulance on ground. Above 1,000, you must have evidence of 1 ambulance and retainer of another ambulance. Above 2,000, you must have 2 ambulances on standby. Again, we've also highlighted and displayed a lot of these vendors on our platform, on our website. You can also reach out to Lagos State Government. We also have an agency that is responsible for ambulance services in the state, Las Ambos, that charges a very little token for these services. So we also, from our platform, is also integrated to the fire service. So say, for example, you're having 2,000 and above, 5,000, 10,000, there's a need for you to have a standby fire truck. We will also connect you directly. So the platform is very integrated. It is very easy to use. And we've also uploaded several facilities across the state. So it's not a case of we are looking for facilities all over the place. You just come in, You identify the event center, you identify the field, you identify the square, if it's race course, if it's TBS, if it's Surulere Stadium, Teslim Balogun Stadium, all these facilities have already been loaded. Beyond this, we've also identified, whilst we're carrying out our pre-inspection services, we've identified ingress areas, we've identified egress areas, we've identified areas where if there's an emergency, these are the muster points. These are the places to go to. So we've actually made it very simple for Lagosians to use. And to be honest, I can tell you for a fact that we register more than 150,000 events per year. And mind you, these events are from 250 and above. From 250 and above, we've registered over 150,000 events, and we've not had any fatalities. Yes, there are times when we do have incidents, but because of the emergency management plan, we have a robust LASEMA, we have the fire service, we have the command and control center, the 767 and the 112 numbers where people can call us. We're also preaching that people should see it, say it. See it, say it, and sort it, which is the third one. See it, you see the infraction, you see the risk, you see it, you say it. Saying it means you're escalating to wherever the appropriate authority is and ensuring that this issue is sorted. Don't turn a blind eye, because when you turn a blind eye, that risk could crystallize and an event could occur that could result in injuries that could also lead to fatalities, which are commonly known as deaths. So for us in Lagos State, what we're preaching, what we're saying to the people is everybody is responsible for safety. Just like my colleague said, Mr. Sonny said earlier, said it's shared responsibility, it's collective responsibility. We're all responsible for our safety. And if you identify something is not going right, see it, say it, sort it. Right. That is what we preach at the Safety Commission.
Great to hear that. Also, for the purpose of clarity, before I go back to Mr. Adenuga, when you say our platform, is that a phone number to call, a website to visit for such requests?
I'll repeat it again. It's the Lagos State Safety Commission platform. It's www.lasgsafetyreg.com. lasgsafetyreg.com. From this platform, you can sort out. It's a website, but it's built. The back end is a platform, so it collects data. It's a live platform. You get feedback immediately. You go onto it, and from that point on, you can sort out whatever request you require from the state government.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Adenuga, let me come back to you. You know, we just heard the DG. In Lagos State, the governor has declared that anyone who wants to share any forms of palliative must register. You know, while I understand that the government is trying to enforce security, is that really the job of government to regulate palliative distribution?
Well, the government has yes, I agree, the government has responsibility in this area. Like Honorable Larry had said, the only concern I only have about the process he has described here is that what about events that are happening in places that are not like event places? A good example is just a field somewhere, and someone is organizing people to come and collect one thing or the other. So I think his commission also needs to look into this area. And I also thought about, well, 250 people. I can as well tell you that, oh, I'm just having 200. But of course, I might be genuinely want to have 200 people. But we know, like you said, Jumoke, maybe some people hear about, oh, there are still about 50 or 100 bags inside that place, 50 or 100 bags of rice. And they start telling people, and the next thing, people flooding. So what's going to really happen there? And that's where I really look at my view about guidelines at the national level, so that to encourage people, to make it very simple, so that you know you have a duty, even if it's that all you are just doing is that, oh, I have a field behind my house. As far as you are calling people who are not your family member into that place, it's a public gathering, and as a result, you must follow that guideline. It should be very simple. Those people in the National Assembly, they can work with the likes of the Land Rights Commission and ensuring that they put a simple guideline in place to ensuring that people follow it. You know, sometimes as a people, at least COVID showed that to us. Sometimes we want to be told things. It is not about education sometimes. It's not about how you may be an expert in medicine. You may be an expert as an engineer, but you may not be an expert when it comes to safety and security. And some of those guidelines can actually make people to think and say, oh, hang on, I don't know I should have done that. So I think, to your question, Jumoke, the government has a duty to educate people and give direction. And talking about government also, we should also not forget the underlying reason. It's not an excuse, it's not an entirely excuse for what has happened, for what has befallen our country in the last few days. But of course, we know the situation in the country is biting hard. And for me, this is an appeal to Mr. President. We know some time ago when the subsidy was removed, there was effort. I still recall very well. Government saying, at federal level, saying that they're going to give 8,000 naira to households, to identify households. And people criticized. And in the process, it was practically kind of shut down. And for some of us who felt differently then that, look, and I remember the statement I made then, and I'm going to repeat it again. Even if it's 2,000 naira that the government wants to give to people, let the poor of the poorest be the ones to receive it. I don't know why I'm having I'm having an echo, but if you are still hearing me, so let me.
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yeah. If it's 2,000 naira that can reach the people, let it get to the poor of the poorest. But what happened? People shut it down. And for whatever reason, I think the federal government backtracked. The governors went there to tell Mr. President or those involved and said, oh, who will be the best person to do it? Well, let me be honest with you. I'm a grassroots person. I have not seen anywhere in Nigeria where the whatever funding given to the government to cushion the impact, the negative impact of fuel subsidy on people, I've not seen where it reached.
Right. Mr. Adenuga, thankfully you've gone there.
Yeah.
Thankfully you've gone there because government says stampedes are as a result of charity organization disregarding the basic safety of such events. But Nigerians say people are hungry. How do we talk about protocols when people are hungry? Now, don't you think that we continue to treat the symptoms and not the disease? And if things are not this hard, if the economy is not this bad, if poor Nigerians are not struggling this much, if there is no corruption in government and basic interventions get to those who need them, if there is no hyperinflation, people would have no business queuing for basic things. What do you say to that? And also, how do we define, and I'm asking this question because you wanted to be president, how do we define that over 133 million Nigerians are dimensionally poor? There have been different policies by successive governments to tackle this, but it seems not to be working. Are our solutions really policy-driven, or our population is a factor?
Well, it's a multifaceted issue, and they need to be addressed with different solutions on the table. Let's pick first and foremost. You see, there is absolutely no excuse for our system of chaos that we found ourselves. It has nothing to do with maybe people being poor or not. Let's give an example. Just go make a trip to any Nigerian airport. Those who are at the airport flying, for heaven's sake, Jumoke, they are not poor people. Have you seen order in our airport? Tell me the best of place in Nigeria where even the rich gather. And you're going to see people. It's about we're filled with ego. Sometimes I don't know. Maybe it's maybe the line of equator. Maybe the gravitational pull in our brain makes us to be extraordinarily crazy about our ego. You see people. Sometimes I've had to shout and say, "Look, the same plane is going to carry all of us. Where are you rushing to?" So let's leave that aside. It is simply because we have not made it mandatory as part of our national development to ensure order in everything we do. Now, let's address the other issue. And the way to address that is through education. It has to start from primary school, secondary school, so whatever level that the educationists feel that is appropriate, so that we can have sense of order at that level. Now, when we talk about the issue biting everybody hard in the country, obviously, yes, we're social animals, we're some level above ordinary animals. But to be honest with you, when you look at, I think it's Maslow theory of hierarchical need. I don't know if it's Maslow now, the hierarchical need. The basic physiological need, part of it is food. When people are not able to get food, the animalistic behavior of human beings comes in. So it's natural. But now you should, if you now compound that with the fact that as a people, we have not been able to demonstrate that we're a people of order. So you can see the second level of problem. Now, what can government do? It's very simple in a way, but it could also be a bit hard. I think the federal government can take that initiative because Mr. President would definitely have had some assumptions when he removed subsidy to think that maybe the governors, okay, when they get the money, they're going to pass it down to the people. I must be honest with you, I've seen in places where government palliative, the type of people that these things goes to, they are not the poor of the poorest of our society. And that is the biggest problem. And this nonsense idea of making sure, I think people are copying politicians. Yes, they copy politicians because the attitude of us as a people, politicians want to give things to people and they want to show it. They want to have a photo op about it. And just for people to maybe to demonstrate that, oh, they are giving something to people. All of this needs to stop so that we can all treat ourselves with dignity. As a Nigerian, I do not feel happy, to be honest with you, whenever I see the way our people are being treated. And that is the way any of us are being addressed. So the government has a lot of duty in this area. And the question is this, when it comes to policy statement, of course, we need to go back to agriculture. It is very, very important to us. That
before I go back to Mr. Mojola, quickly, the federal government has now warned politicians and stakeholders not to impute political meanings to this tragic incident in these three states. How important is this for us to achieve a common front at tackling this national challenge?
Yeah, well, the government can say whatever they can say, just like making a law, and obviously, people are not going to obey the law. Who is going to break it? It's not the ordinary Nigerians, it's the politicians themselves. I'm a politician, but I'm not one of those politicians who only wants to ride on whatever it is for prominence. That's not my own style. But the point here is this, that same statement, you will be surprised, it is even, if it's APC that made that statement, it is people from APC that will first violate that statement. But the point here is this, we've lost Nigerians whose hope have been dashed, whose hope have been lost forever. No one, I side with the government there, no responsible person, and no one should support anybody saying that, oh, they should make political statement about this, but rather we should all wear our thinking cap and see how best to encourage people that, look, we need to make sure we start doing things in the right way. There must be a sense of order in the way we do things. If you want to give 10 naira to people, respect them, just give some bit of respect. Sometimes that sense of giving respect will make you to think about it and stop this nonsense behavior of having photo op. We want to be on social media. We want to show that I'm giving food to 500 people. If you don't have the money, why do you want to do it? And if you have, give gladly.
All right, then. Mr. Digi, let me come to you. I want us to talk about security in Lagos during Yolted. I mean, this is Lagos where everyone from everywhere come to celebrate their Christmas. What measures are on ground to ensure safety of Lagos residents during Christmas, especially during traffic hours?
There's a lot the Lagos State government is doing with regards to safety and security. Like we say, safety usually are threats, internal threats. Security are external threats. And the two mirror, the two marry to have a safe society. So with regard to internal threats like issues around stampede, crowd control, collapsed buildings, you have institutions like the Safety Commission. With regard to security threats, you have, aside the Nigerian police, you also have the LNS, the Lagos State Neighborhood Corps. And these guys are everywhere in Lagos State. You can see them gathering intelligence. You can see them very well dressed, very well kitted, always trained. They pass on information to the security agencies, the Nigerian police and the likes. So with regards to security, I can tell you for a fact that also the Command and Control Center has been beefed up, has been equipped adequately to ensure that people can escalate any security concerns that you have. So you're walking down your street and you see someone that is not a regular person or someone in a corner locking somewhere, you can call that 767 number. You can be assured that somebody's going to pick it. You can be assured that the RRS will respond, or any escalations that are required will be carried out. Mr. Governor is doing a lot. Security remains one of the pillars security and governance is very important. It's a vital aspect of this government because we believe that without security, indeed, there are a lot of issues that we can't fix. But once we get security right, then you can get foreign investors in, you can get people to come out and spend their money, you can get an orderly society like Mr. Adenuga has been talking about. You can indeed get an orderly society, which we all dream of. A safer Lagos, a greater Lagos, a Lagos of our dreams working. So with regard to security, I can tell you for a fact that a lot is ongoing. Mr. Governor is meeting with all the heads of agencies that are involved with security, involved with the safety. For example, with the Safety Commission, we have a 4E's program. The first is we have our guys constantly in the cities, in the villages, in the towns, in the corporate sector, looking out for identifying risks. So we do a lot of risk evaluation. The second is education. We initially started focusing on enforcement, but then we realized that, hold on a second, how do we enforce when people don't even know what the right thing is? So we backtracked a bit, started to publish a lot more guidelines, started to carry out a lot more of regulations. For example, this event safety regulations that we're operating on has been in existence for a few years right now. So with education, people are more aware of what they need to do. Aside that, we also then engage. We've engaged with vitally almost all the groups from the construction sector, the artisans, the NURTW drivers. We've been talking to all of them. What does safety mean to them? So if you speak to an NURTW driver, what he'll say safety is different from what a teacher in the class is saying. So we've tried to marry all these ideas, but all of us going back to the focus that safety starts, safety begins with you. Safety is protecting yourself and protecting people that are around.
So that leads me to my next question, Mr. DG, and also because, we say security is everyone's business. What advice do you have for Lagos residents to ensure personal safety as we all merry and enjoy the season? How do you also urge residents to volunteer information that would aid operations of the security operatives in keeping Lagos safe for all?
Whatever things we do that we know could constitute a safety risk that could lead to a security risk. For example, the use of prosthetics, bangers, we do not encourage this at all. And should you want to do fireworks, you need to get the requisite permissions. These are things that could cause fires. These are things that could cause unharmony or disorder in the society. So we outrightly state that if you were to use this for your concerts, for your events, ensure that you get the right permits in. But beyond that, it also goes down to you seeing it and speaking it. Like I said earlier, you see it, you said it, you sort it. It's everyone's responsibility. Security is everyone's responsibility. Safety is everyone's responsibility. The emergency numbers are clearly displayed. Everybody knows them. You can call them. They're toll-free lines. So you don't need to spend money to call the 767 number. These are free lines that you can call to ensure if you find out that there's on common issue or something that is going on around you, or you're uncomfortable, with regards to safety or security, you can call these numbers and you can be rest assured that a caller is going to pick it and operator is going to pick it. So
for the purpose of those who do not know, Mr. DG, what's that number again?
It's 767. 767. These are the Lagos State and 112. 767 and 112. These are the Lagos State emergency numbers.
All right, Mr. Adenuga, let me come to you. And I want us to quickly talk about the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Eradication. This ministry is a very key ministry that should have been driving the support of the vulnerable in the country. And Mr. President has a minister who will oversee the ministry. How much of a data-driven, transparent, and impactful administration are you looking forward to in line with the vision of Mr. President and in response to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians?
Yeah, I think, thanks, Jumoke, for that question. And I'm going to start by saying my appeal is this. Mr. President should please rethink of the 8K per month for the needy in Nigeria. And I will tell you why I said this. Some of us who supported the idea then, people shut us down and condemned. So, but before I made this appeal today, I'd called some of them and said, oh, what do you think about the idea of 8K per month that was shut down? And one of them told me, in fact, if Nigerians who they have 5K today, they will be happy. So please, I think this needs to really be revisited. Now, talking about data, I don't know so much of the workings of the humanitarian ministry. However, it shouldn't be hard to be able to establish this data. During the Naira confiscation period, probably one of the best things that came out of it is that many Nigerians probably started opening bank accounts. And from bank accounts of individuals, and many who doesn't have bank accounts, they may be able to establish data from these financial organizations and be able to reach out to the needy and those who actually need who needs this money. Because one of the things that is actually disappointing is this. I'm a politician, and I will tell you what the politicians have been doing. They, of course, the governors in the states, what they do is that they give this palliative they give it out mostly through their own networks, political networks across the state. And what these people do, they only give it to their own members. And sometimes it's not all these members that actually need this. So this is where federal government needs to come in and be able to use through artificial intelligence, through data mining.
All right, gentlemen. Mr. Adenuga, sadly, this is where we need to draw the curtain on the show today. Thank you so much for your perspectives on the show. I've been speaking with the National Chairman, Boot Party, Sonny Adenuga, and Lanre Modula, Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission. Thank you so much, gentlemen.